From Washington, D.C. to the heart of America, welcome to Mark Alford's Capitol Recap. I'm Congressman Mark Alford from Missouri, your voice and your vote in Washington. Welcome back, everyone. We are taking you behind the scenes of what is happening in our nation's great capital. As you know, the American people gave us a mandate, an America First mandate. So that's what we in Congress have been delving into. Alongside President Trump's executive orders, we are delivering it for you. This week in Washington, we voted on some key legislation, the Agent Raul Gonzalez Officer Safety Act and the Midnight Rules and Relief Act. So let's get into that just a little bit. The Agent Raul Gonzalez Officer Safety Act gives law enforcement authorities the necessary tools they need to fully penalize criminals who intentionally fail to yield to Border Patrol agents and law enforcement officials assisting Border Patrol. My friend, Rep. Juan Ciscomani and Congresswoman Monica de la Cruz of Texas are co-leading this crucial bill. Passing this bill, really, it's a vital step towards protecting the law enforcement that protects us on the U.S.-Mexico border. It's named after Border Patrol agent Raul Gonzalez. He died while chasing illegal aliens near McAllen Station in the Rio Grande sector. This legislation imposes stricter penalties for evading law enforcement near the border. Agent Gonzalez's sacrifices are really a stark reminder of the dangers that our brave Border Patrol agents are facing each and every day, thanks in large part to the Biden administration and its lax border policies. Right now, I want you to take a listen to what Representative Abe Hamadeh from Arizona, a new member, said about the Agent Raul Gonzalez Officer Safety Act. He spoke at the House Leadership Press Conference earlier this week. Listen to what he had to say.
Now, we're going to hear from a member who knows firsthand the devastating impact of the border crisis. Another patriot wanting to make America secure. And now I turn it over to my friend, Rep. Abe Hamadeh from Arizona.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you to the leadership team, Speaker Johnson, Leader Scalise, and Whip Emmer, and Chairwoman McClain. You all have been fantastic and been prioritizing the border since day one, since I took office on January 3rd. And we know that President Trump, that's his first actions as well. And as a former prosecutor from Arizona and a veteran myself, I know that keeping our communities safe is the number one priority of the Republican majority. And I've seen firsthand how cartels and smugglers are exploiting the disastrous border crisis created by the Biden administration. Under the Biden administration, we hit catastrophic numbers, nearly 3 million border crossings in 2024 alone, bringing over 11 million encounters from when Biden took office. Now, that's more than the entire population of Minnesota and Louisiana combined. And now we've seen under President Trump's leadership, 95% decrease in border encounters in just a few weeks. It's amazing what strong and tough leadership actually does and what following the law does. And that's what the Republican majority is committed to doing. Now, the Agent Raul Gonzalez Officer Safety Act, of which I'm a proud co-sponsor, being led by another fellow Arizonan, Congressman Juan Ciscomani. Now, it's personal for Arizona and for me. Now, these high-speed pursuits are not merely statistics. Criminal illegal aliens are putting our communities and law enforcement officers at risk every single day. And now with President Trump's designation of the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization on January 20th, we finally have the tools to treat these barbarians like the terrorists they are. We have to kill the cartels. And this bill does one simple thing. If you flee from Border Patrol, you do hard time in jail. No more catch and release, no more games with our immigration laws. And if you're here illegally and you flee, you're gone. No asylum, no benefits, no second chances. Seems pretty common sense to me and to the American people. Now, that's exactly what the American people asked for in November when they voted overwhelmingly for Republicans. Now, this bill passed with bipartisan votes in the last Congress, as the chairwoman recognized. And there's no reason it shouldn't receive even more support this time. And it probably will. It probably will, because the Democrats got shellacked on November 5th, and now they want to stay relevant. So they're trying to act a little bit more moderate than they truly are. But we've seen under their direction leadership that they created this border crisis. And for too long, so many in the media tried to paint it as Republicans were being racist by calling it an invasion. We understand that it was an invasion. And that's exactly why President Trump, this Republican majority, is focused on fixing it very quickly. Now, the American people are demanding action on the border crisis we inherited, and that is exactly what House Republicans are doing to fix it. Thank you.
Well, let's dive into the next important bill we passed on the House floor this week, the Midnight Rules and Relief Act. As we all know, our federal government remains bloated. It's out of control. It's really making it essential that we crack down on the draconian rulemaking process and the bureaucratic red tape, which is really stifling America. So to help address that issue, the House Republicans voted in favor of the Midnight Rules Relief Act. It's a common sense bill that makes it easier for Congress to conduct oversight on federal rulemaking. The previous Biden administration imposed more than $1.3 trillion in regulatory costs in 1 year alone. They shattered Obama's record for most regulations packed into a single year. They filled more than 96,000 pages in the Federal Register of this over-regulation. The Constitution clearly outlines the separation of powers between the three branches of government, but federal agencies are not sticking with the script, not sticking with the Constitution. The consolidation of power makes it easy for unelected bureaucrats to pass excessive and heavy-handed regulations while bypassing Congress's constitutional powers. It's called midnight rulemaking, and it expands the power of the unelected bureaucrats at the expense of you, the American people, and the expense of our Constitution. I want to be clear about this. Lawmaking belongs to us, the people you elected to go to Congress and to be your voice and your vote. Elected officials, including myself, answer to you, the people. And federal agencies do not need to be calling the shots and leaving you, the American people, with little to no say in really the policies and the laws that shape your lives each and every day. The Midnight Rules Relief Act offers a smarter, faster way for Congress to start. The Midnight Rules Relief Act offers a smarter, faster way for Congress to stop harmful regulations. We're very happy to pass this bill last year and even more proud to continue making sure it gets across the finish line this Congress. Take a moment to listen to what my colleague, Congressman Andy Biggs, said about the bill during his Judiciary Committee meeting.
So what this bill would do is it would make Congress's oversight more efficient during the midnight rulemaking period. The Midnight Rules Relief Act would allow Congress to introduce joint resolutions considering multiple agency rules during the final year in a president's term. And this change would allow Congress to efficiently respond to the influx in agency regulations during the midnight hours of the president's term. And this particularly gets at one of the reasons that an administration would go ahead and proceed to do this is that it would overwhelm the new administration. So you are actually facilitating review of the outgoing administration, and you're actually facilitating and helping the new administration as well.
You see, the Midnight Rules Relief Act is a chance for Congress to reclaim our role as your voice while restoring transparency and stopping the runaway regulatory binge in its tracks. You're listening to Mark Alford's Capital Recap. When we come back, we'll dive into the Small Business Committee hearing that we had this week that will impact you. Stay with us. You're listening to Mark Alford's Capital Recap. Welcome back, everyone, to Mark Alford's Capital Recap, taking you behind the scenes of what's happening in our nation's great capital, highlighting the key legislation that we've worked on this week and what's going on in Washington. This week, we held a Small Business Committee hearing entitled Driving Economic Growth, Small Business Administration Lending Programs and the Vital Role of Community Banks. I know a lot of you out there listening right now are small business owners. I know some of you are local bankers like Bill McDaniel at Community Bank of Raymore. Well, today, small businesses are working to recover after the inflation, the supply chain issues, the workforce shortages, and the overburdensome regulations imposed by the Biden administration. With President Trump in office and a Republican majority, we're working to cut the red tape and free you really to spend your time building your business, not just doing the paperwork to justify bureaucrats down the street. So we had some great witnesses in to talk before our committee on small business, and I had the chance to ask them some questions. So take a listen to some of the questions I had for a banker and a credit union officer about how they are overcoming the red tape to provide you the services through the Small Business Administration to build and foster small businesses, especially in rural America. Mr. Hooper, I've heard some of the same issues from our community bank where I bank in Raymore, Missouri, from Bill McDaniel, the president, the burdens of these over-regulations, Among the most harmful regulations implemented during the Biden administration are the 1071 rule implementing by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Thank goodness that Chairman Williams introduced February 5th H.R. 976, which would repeal the CFPB's implementation of the 1071 rules. FinCEN's implementation of the beneficial ownership reporting rule has been paused by federal courts, though there are additional pending actions in court. So my question to you is, number one, do you believe the CFPB is constitutional?
I do not.
I do not either. Thank you. What happens if the 1071 rules are put back into place? What effect will that have on lending to people who need this money, the capital, to start and maintain a small business?
Sure. Thank you for the question. There's a couple of points there with 1081. There's 81 data points that have to be collected at the time we would take an application, and then some of that data is then published by the CFPB annually, and so that raises all kinds of privacy concerns and things of that nature, especially relative to if there were denials and things like that included in some of those data points. And so, just simply managing it, and then also on our side, the cost to implement it is astounding. As I mentioned, we're estimating if prior to it being stayed, we were looking at over $2 million in cost potentially to do the training and everything necessary. But I will tell you, most of our customers would find the questioning very troublesome and difficult as well.
Mr. Sims, do you believe that the CFPB is constitutional?
I do not, sir.
Thank you. I want to continue with you, Mr. Sims. You mentioned about regional offices. They needed to be more proactive. I agree with that. Senator Joni Ernst introduced a bill to relocate SBA workers in part from the office down here in D.C., which we were at a year and a half ago, and they all scurried to show up when they knew we were coming. And on any given day, even if the building is staffed with 100% of the employees in the building, it's only 67% full. It's a waste of money, basically. We need to get these SBA regional offices out into rural America where we have business deserts, if you will, so they can get the capital and counseling they need in a lot of these areas where we have the rural broadband to operate businesses and the people wanting to relocate out into the communities of rural America. What are your thoughts on that, and how would the credit unions play a vital role in that?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question, Mr. Alford. I think simply leveraging the expertise that you would have inside of an SBA district office, and from a credit union's perspective, my focus is on the business member and how do I figure out what's the best product set for that business member. And to have an advocate that has the inner working, the knowledge of the SBA process, policies, and procedures to help us when we hit a roadblock and we have a question that has arisen as a result of a particular request, they would be able to help us navigate that process.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for being here on this snowy day, coming here on your own time and your own dime. I appreciate it. And I yield back. Well, folks, I want to take a moment to talk about what's going on down in the district, the 4th Congressional District of Missouri. I want to tell you a little bit about my friends at CASCO, which is in Cass County. CASCO's mission is to provide meaningful experiences to people with disabilities. And it gives them a chance to increase their independence, earn a few dollars along the way, and it fulfills a need for local businesses as well. But that could be at risk. Through CASCO, our community is able to defend each person's right to be independent and productive and contribute towards their own welfare and the welfare of the community. So get this, the Biden administration's Department of Labor proposed a rule that would do away with something called the 14C certificate. The 14C is what allows businesses like CASCO to pay what are called commensurate wages. It's based on the employee productivity. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these employees, most all of them, have some sort of mental disability. They love their jobs. And if this goes away, folks would lose the benefits because of the minimum wage requirement. And these folks who work at CASCO to learn the skills, practice independence, need those benefits. Chances are they couldn't get a job anywhere else. So we just went over to this amazing community business last Friday, and I want you to listen to what the CEO, Robert Greenwood, told us about this problem that they are facing.
DOL has proposed a rule that would do away with 14C certificates. And the 14C allows us to pay commensurate wage, which is based on their productivity. So if that goes away, then we would have to pay everybody the state minimum wage, which is $13.75, I believe. And a lot of folks would lose their benefits that work here, and they truly need those benefits. Also, it wouldn't allow them to come to work or work at any place unless they were able to get a job in the community at like Walmart or something like that. And that's proposing that they could do that. So it would really hurt our folks if they did. Most people here have a developmental disability or some type of disability that negates their ability to work at 100%. So most of our folks have that type of disability.
And if they didn't have a job here fulfilling these duties and helping local businesses, they may not be working somewhere else.
Yeah, more than likely they wouldn't, or they definitely wouldn't be.
Well, there's a little look at what CASCO is facing and how we are trying to help out here in Congress. I want to remind you that we're always here for you, working for you if you ever need help with a federal agency issue, passport, maybe a benefit that you're not getting, the federal government holding on to your money, Social Security benefits, VA benefits. We are here working for you. Just this past week, our team opened 82 cases and closed 81 cases so far. And since the beginning of the 119th Congress, our office has returned $356,000 to you, the constituents of Missouri's 4th Congressional District, money that the federal government was holding on to that's rightfully yours. This puts us at returning more than $3 million since we took office. Well, to wrap up this week's episode, we want to let you know about a new fun project that we're involved with, working with the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, Representative August Pfluger of Texas. I am the chair of the task force, the communication task force for the Republican Study Committee, and I'm helping lead a podcast for them. It's called Right to the Point, and this week it'll be available on Republican Study Committee's social media, Apple and Spotify. Just search RSC in those platforms. It should come up. So take a listen to this sneak peek from our very first episode, which just aired this week. A great conversation with a member from Iowa and a member from Texas.
What we are looking at here is really a return to Reagan-esque style peace through strength, but also a Trump add to this of made in America, because this is one of the best ways we secure our world is what we can produce here, whether it's energy out of your district, August, whether it's the bombers that fly out of Mark's district and provide a deterrence, or whether it's some of the weaponry that we're building in my district. Here's an opportunity for us as RSC to be a thought leader in making a production process work in America that will not only provide for a safer world, it's going to be one of our best ways to help our allies going forward too. So, gentlemen, I'm excited to get this thing kicked off.
Well, I am too, and just hearing you talk about national security and the fact that you've practiced it, Mark, when we start communicating that being a conservative includes national security. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this podcast.
I think so. You know, national security, we talk a lot of things about national security. I was on the ag committee, and we thought the ag, our farms, that's national security. Food security is national security. Absolutely true. We talk about our economic policy. We talk about border security. That's national security. Everything that we do really in Congress touches on national security in some way. The things we're working on this week, the Halt Fentanyl Act, okay? President Biden, in the last 4 years, has let some 12 million illegal aliens into our great nation, and with them bringing a scourge of fentanyl that's affected every one of our districts. Over 100,000 people a year die from fentanyl poisoning. I don't call it overdoses. These are largely poisonings of young people, an entire generation of young people that are being poisoned by one pill that can kill. And what has Biden done about it? Bupkis. He had the biggest liar since Pinocchio, Alejandro Mayorkas, saying, oh, there's no crisis, there's no problem at the border. And yet we know there was, and the American people knew there was, and that's why Donald J. Trump's now back behind that resolute desk. So let's talk about the Halt Fentanyl Act and what we have done this week to try to refine our laws to make sure that fentanyl is squashed in America.
It's incredible. This bill passed the House last year.
There you have it. Peek at podcasts, which we'll also give links to in our social media accounts. Thanks for allowing us to be your voice and your vote in Washington. It is an honor of a lifetime to be in these hearings, working on the legislation to vote on your behalf. Hey, please sign up for our newsletter. Go to alford.house.gov and you will get the very latest information on what we're doing in Washington working for you. We'll be back next week with another edition of Mark Alford's Capitol Recap. Until then, good day and God bless.